Welcome to Dark Dreams Podcast. Our first story, The Flailing Arm by K. Trap Jones, read by E.S. Wynn.
The Flailing Arm by K. Trap Jones. Before I begin my tale, I must preface that I do not consider myself an evil person, nor do I have a subdued dark side. I am an ordinary man that has endured a complicated situation that did not end well for me. To ponder the conclusion before the foundation would be absurd, so I will start from the beginning. The story that I will tell is not meant to frighten or provide false evidence, but rather to transcribe the truth. Please do not judge me before all the facts are known. As the owner of a morgue, I worked long hours tending to the corpses. It was daunting, but a satisfying task. The busy activities distract me from the approaching moons. You see, the rise of darkness was the beginning of my nightly torture. It was that which crept in the shadows of my room that I feared the most. It was the very essence of evil, in which I will attempt to describe. It must be noted that I am concerned about how my words will be perceived. There is a worry about the reputation that will undoubtedly plague my existence once my tale is told. For now, those feelings will be held within my hallowing heart, but it should be said that even I am uncomfortable speaking of this topic. My loving wife accompanies me within the morgue, and I love her dearly. She is my soulmate, and the spirit of my wonder. Together we labor over the daily chores and equally share the workload. When one becomes overburdened, the other would assist. We have an adoring relationship, which has never ventured down a mischievous path. She is everything a man could desire, and everything a man needs. After a long day of work, I was brutally tired and desperately needed sleep. My wife had already retired for the night and was comfortably slumbering. There was nothing astray. She had always fallen asleep well before me. I had grown accustomed to creeping silently into our room and knew where every sound-producing wooden plank lied upon the floor. Seeing within the dark became a skill, which was utilized each night to bathe and prepare for bed. There was always time to reflect upon my beautiful wife, and I took advantage of it. The way the moonlight gazed upon her skin while she slept was breathtaking. I often found myself lost in her beauty, and even questioned what she indeed saw in me. How could I be so fortunate? I would be satisfied with merely knowing her as a friend. I slept on the right side of the bed, and she on the left. As I joined her, the added weight upon the mattress usually prompted her to shift and adjust her comfort level. The moments of calmness that caressed me prior to sleeping was always my favorite. I was very fond of knowing that all the chores of the morgue had been completed. The corpses were nestled in their chambers, and my wife was fast asleep. There were no worries left unnoticed and uncontrolled. Sleep was approaching at a rapid pace. My eyelids weighed heavy and quickly closed. A calming dream was welcoming me wholeheartedly, and I offered the same in return. The following events are so clearly scarred within my mind that they will flow across my lips like a river through a mountain pass. As I lay upon my back with my wife next to me, facing the window, I became startled by a violent hit from something I could not decipher. My sore eyelids sprung open, My aching back twitched in pain, and my pores secreted a cold sweat. Fear gripped me like a scythe in the hands of a reaper. Never before had I been so frightened. It was almost as if I was standing upon the ledge of my own grave, looking downward. The sudden spike in my heart rate fed into my terror and masked my calmness with an intense displeasure. My breathing became irregular and unsustainable. Upon my chest laid her arm, which was retracted after I pushed it from my chest, allowing me to sit up in bed. By the time I was able to soothe myself to sleep, the sun was rising. I kept the events of the previous night to myself, but my sagging eyes and utter exhaustion were wounds of remembrance. Handling the chores allowed me to momentarily put aside the memory. I kept busy until the sun began to hide behind the trees. I changed nothing about my nightly rituals and crept like I always crept. Into the bed I went, and greeted the mattress with my aching back like a long-lost companion. As I breathed a sigh of relief, the breeze from the open window took hold of my senses. Deep within the field of dreams I traveled. Effortlessly I slept, until her arm flailed once again. Instead of striking me in the chest, her wrist slammed against my face. I quickly arose, grabbed the damned limb, and tossed it aside. I lay awake the entire night, pondering whether her flesh branch would swing my way once more. From the window I saw the glimmer of sunlight trickle through the trees. Snarling my lip, I became disgusted by the unavoidable day that was approaching. The deprivation of sleep struck me like a brick to the head. I could not focus clearly on the tasks at hand. I began to have difficulties completing even the simplest of chores. I would carelessly drop tools while cleaning them. I would have to sit and rest after moving numerous corpses. Jobs were being overlooked. Going to bed was not enjoyable anymore. A gray cloud of dread cast itself over my side of the mattress each night, tormenting me as I pleaded for sleep. In preparation for the attack, I used extra pillows to build up a blockade. The wall was 3 pillows high and as white as the clouds in the sky. I felt safe in the moonlight shadows that it cast upon me. Huddled like a lion cub in a rainstorm, I closed my eyes. Beyond the barricade, I heard the wrestling sound of the enemy approaching. I dared not peer over the fortress wall to provide any inclination of my whereabouts. The great serpent was moving on the other side of my defenses, studying the pillows. My wall swayed slightly with every touch. The barrier angered the beast as it grabbed the top layer and threw it across the room. Fear stabbed my heart like a wooden stake. The second feathery mortar of the wall proved to be no match either, as it was almost thrown through the window. Much like a battling ram toppling a castle gate, I saw my stronghold crumble in a matter of seconds. The last layer of my resistance hit the ceiling so hard that I believe it extracted feathers. Left without any protection, the arm punished me for my lack of consideration. Again, tending to the needs of the morgue provided me comfort. I could not be around my wife in the morning, as she was a source of recollection. I am not a confrontational person, so I continued to keep my secret locked away within my tired veins. She was as kind as ever, without the smallest inclination as to what she had been putting me through. While cleansing the embalming tubes, I thought it best that I seek my slumber elsewhere, with the only purpose to gather the sleep that I had lost. To the floor I sank, where I did not mind the hardened wood. The anticipation of a peaceful sleep overshadowed any anxiety my mind was inflicting upon me. I had reached tranquility at last, but my stay was not as long as I would have liked. The voice of my wife rang out through the shadows of the room, calling my name. I answered from the floor, which prompted more questions from her. To avoid any such altercation, I gathered my pillow and rejoined her in bed. Aggravation showed its ugly demeanor from either annoyance or the fact that she noticed my absence, as she quickly fell back asleep. I was once again in the terrible state of the unknown, preparing to be assaulted by her possessed arm. Within minutes, her demonic limbs swung like a pendulum, striking me in my stomach. As soon as it had arrived, it had quickly left and hid beneath the covers like a bear in a cave. It was just another night of torment. I could barely do the chores the following day. The brightness of the lights tortured my inflamed eyes. My spine wanted desperately to leave my body and search for a healthier host. I had been cutting the hedges along the back fence all day. The tiredness infecting my mind also affected the quality of my work. While tending to the final portion of the hedges, my hand slipped from the handles of the clippers and allowed the blade to graze my forearm. The wound was not very damaging, but bled nonetheless. Watching the life source of my arm slowly drip to the brown leaves scattered upon the ground, a disturbing idea formed itself in my mind. Again, I am neither a spiteful nor a violent person, but the concept did pique my interest. If a wound were to happen upon the arm of my wife, she would have no choice but to nurse it and keep it sheltered. There I found myself in a dilemma. I avoided the choice until the fall of the sun prompted a response. I did not want to choose, but I did not put away the clippers either. Holding the handles tightly, I crept into the room and slid into the bed. Lying upon my back, I pried apart the blades ever so slowly, to avoid any loud noise from the grinding metal. Like a hunter stalking his prey, I awaited. To avoid grief, I kept telling myself that it would be an accident, but the concept of someone sleeping with hedge clippers did seem quite insane. The night continued on with no movement from the wife. I began to question myself about my intentions. Was I being selfish? Was I being inconsiderate? My love for my wife was strong and ordered me to close the blades. As my eyes shut tight and my boat sailed towards the ocean of dreams, her arm quickly snapped in an arc pattern and struck me in my crotch. The attack clenched my throat and suctioned my breath. The moonlight glistening off of the blades drew me back to the original goal. I gripped her wrist and placed the arm in the middle of the clippers. With both hands on the handles, I slowly closed the blades. The edges kissed and indented into her milky skin. I did not want to cause her pain. I wanted her to pull back the arm, therefore it would not be any fault of my own. When I did not want the arm to move, it did. When I did want the arm to move, it did not. She was so beautiful in the blue haze of the moon. Time went by with no retraction of her arm, so I opened the blades. Only then did her arm get pulled back. Another night wasted. Another annoying morning filled with the putrid sun and the horrific songbirds. As I painfully took to the chores, I saw my wife down the hallway. She was well rested and full of energy. My hatred for her grew with every minute that was tacked onto my awakened hours. To the dock by the river I went, for nothing more except to be out of her vision. The water was peaceful and calming. I thought about just falling in and allowing the tranquility to imprison me. but there was a broken tree branch protruding from the surface. If I had landed upon it, I would have been hurt badly.